All right. What's up, everybody? I think I'm going live now. Ryan Payne, this is your monthly mentoring session. And today, basically, I'm going to break down for you. I think I'm live right now. I think I started a little early there. Hey, it's Ryan Payne. This is your monthly mentoring session. And I got a lot of good questions today, which I'll break down for you. Just a refresher, my firm, Payne Capital Management, we're a wealth management firm with offices in New York City and Philadelphia, and I can answer any questions you want related to investing your money, financial independence, and anything just on entrepreneurship, building a business. I built my business from the ground up. I'm still building my business, so I'm in the proverbial game still, so I can help with anything around business growth, anything about business building, all those type of things. So let's hop to it. We got some great questions today. I hope everybody's well, enjoying what's left of the summer. We have like 2 weeks left. It's hard to believe. For some reason, I feel like the world is actually speeding up when you're in a pandemic. So go figure. It's going to be September right around the corner. But let's get right to the questions today. The first one comes in from Jason Antonino. What's up, Jason? He sent me many messages in the past. His question today is, should I roll over my 401k into an IRA, or am I better off leaving my funds in my old 401k? Pros versus cons of each. And his business description is, I was laid off from my job recently. I have a 401k plan through my former employer. I'm thinking about either rolling the 401k funds to an IRA or leaving them in the plan for the time being. Okay, this is a great question. And anyone who has a 401k right now, or if you were laid off or changing employers, because when that happens, that money in your 401k plan is actually transferable at that time. So you can either roll it into a new 401k with the new company, or you have the option of an IRA, which is an individual retirement account. And at a face value, I like the IRA better just because in an individual retirement account, you have way more options. So it's kind of like when you're in a 401k, you have that very, very limited menu of options that you can choose from. And sometimes they have good options, sometimes they have bad options. Also, a lot of times the fees in a 401k, you don't see them, they're hidden. That's the beauty of my business. They just love to hide those fees. And sometimes you're paying more in fees than you even know. And worse, like a lot of the admin costs get spread out amongst everybody in the plan. So if you leave that plan and you leave that employer, you're still covering the admin costs for everybody in that plan. So it's good to know what the costs are in that plan as well, because a lot of times it can be very expensive. So by rolling into an IRA, there's no tax liability to do that. The money still grows tax deferred. You don't pay money, or you don't pay taxes on that money until it comes out later on. Earliest is 59.5 without penalties. But then you have what I call the supermarket of investments to invest your money in. It's like you can invest your money in basically, for all intents and purposes, any public market. So you can really diversify that money and customize it to your needs. Now, sometimes, not to complicate things, it might be better to actually take that money and roll it into your new 401k plan. Now, when it can be advantageous, and I'm not going to get too into this, there's a lot of nuances with this, but if you're making a lot of money right now, you get phased out of doing what we call a Roth IRA every year. So if you make over, I think it's collectively something like $200,000 a year, I have to give you the right numbers on this, you're unable to do a Roth IRA every year. Now, Roth IRA is a great option because it's money you put in after tax, but that money grows tax-free for the rest of your life. Let me repeat that. That money's completely tax-free for the rest of your life. All the gains on it are completely tax-free. And sometimes you can get around this income constraint if you have all your money in a 401k already. You can do what you call a backdoor Roth. Now, I'm not going to get into all the nuances of that today, but I would just say if you are making a lot of money and you do have a 401k and you have the opportunity to roll into an IRA, talk to a financial professional first about that backdoor Roth. But I feel like that's like way too much information for today. So good rule of thumb is, if you have the opportunity to roll your money out of an old 401k, do it, because the fees typically are going to be less in an IRA and you're going to have way more options of where you can actually invest your money. So just kind of like good rule of thumb advice on that, good question. And the other thing is, if you're self-employed like a lot of you are, just another thing to think about is you have a lot of different plans that you can put in place for yourself if you're self-employed. Like you could put together a self-employed 401k where you get the best of both worlds. You get like a 401k where you get this money you get to put away pre-tax. And the best thing is if you're just working for yourself, you can put 2 contributions in. You can put one in as the employer and one as the employee, which basically can get you a decent amount of money away every year pre-tax. But furthermore, the other nice thing is you can actually set it up so you can invest in lots of different options, just like that IRA or individual retirement account I just mentioned. So that's the one thing too for all you self-employed out there. There's a lot of creative options for how you can set up your retirement account that are a little bit different than if you just work for a company. So if you ever have any more questions on that, feel free to DM me offline. I'm happy to answer those kind of questions. I can basically give you the rundown, maybe for your business, what's the best route to take there. Okay, so we're moving and grooving here. Next question comes in from Adam Drake. Adam writes in, as I add people to my organization, how do I get everyone to fully utilize our CRM? Business description and background is, I want a high CRM usage so I can analyze firm-wide data. I understand the benefit for me as the owner, but what's in it for the user to spend time updating their CRM? Or how can I convince them it's time well spent? I want to see if clients are being serviced, if our pipeline is growing, if our close rate is changing, and if other trends emerge. I own an investment advisory firm, just like me, and Adam, you and I have spoken, and manage a team of financial advisors. I'm doing training videos on the CRM so I get adoption. At least I know people will use the CRM correctly. Okay, this is a great question because I think I don't care what business you're in, but every single organization should have a CRM. They should have some sort of communal system that everybody's using to streamline all your processes. Now, a couple of things about the CRM, Adam. I know you're in the same industry as me, so I don't know what CRM you're going to look to use, but I find simplicity over complexity first. Like I know a lot of financial advisors that have used Salesforce, and it's just so freaking complicated. You've got to bring in like these outside consultants to implement it, and it's just like so mind-blowing that no one in your organization, my guess is, will want to use it, and they probably won't use it. So first is you want to use something that's very simple and easy to use. And our experience, Redtail is a great one. I don't know if you're outside of the financial services industry. I think it's still worth using just because it's so simple and it's web-based and you don't need a lot of training around it. But what I suggest you do is you make all of your systems have to be basically on the CRM, meaning like if someone needs a task done, they have to use the CRM to do that. So let's just say, like, for an example, I'm going to use your industry specifically because we're in the same industry, but everybody can apply this to their own industry. But like, let's say I want to move money for a client. Well, they can't send an email to your admin people to do that. It has to be through the CRM, and it actually has to be attached to the client to do that. So basically, you just want to make it so that if I'm working under your firm, the only way I can get things done is if I use the CRM. But use it, using one that's easy to use and having processes in place or parameters is really key. So going back to that money movement example is everyone in the firm should do it the same way. They should tag the client into the actual task. It should be the same like format that's used for everybody throughout the firm. So I think this is actually a bigger discussion for you, and that has to do with streamlining all your processes. Now, no, Adam, I've spoken to you in the past, and you're trying to really leverage and grow your business and build infrastructure to do that. So this is the perfect time to use the CRM as a tool to systematize all your underlying tasks for your firm, which I think everyone should be thinking that way. So this is a good lesson for all of us. So right now, if you're scaling up your business, okay, you need to keep reevaluating your processes to look at, am I doing things in a way that's not just effective now, but if my business gets much busier and now I need to accommodate 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, would this same process work? So, one thing I found in my business as we've grown and grown and grown is we've continually had to refine our processes. And now when we build a process, we're always thinking about the scalability of that process. So I think right now, Adam, you have this like amazing opportunity to use the CRM as a new platform, basically to build your business from and to streamline a lot of processes that I'm guessing, and I think I've spoken to you before, that you haven't been able to delegate out in the past because like you like to control and do things. Not to pick on you, we all do this, by the way. This is like universal with all business owners, is like relinquishing control is so hard. But I find that by having a streamlined CRM with all of your team members is just such a great way to do that. So long story short is use a very simple, easy to use web-based CRM that everybody can log into from wherever they are and make any process that they're trying to do, whether it's processing paperwork, moving money, whatever those tasks are, must go through the CRM and must be tagged to that actual client, prospect, or whatever. So that's a great place to start. Also for marketing, man, oh man, if you're getting leads in, using a CRM, so this is for everybody right now. I don't know what people are using for your marketing tools, but man, having a database of who's being marketed to and having that information in there, and then, how they can be mailed to and emailed to and all those great things, like that's where a CRM is just so critical when you're building your marketing machine. So hope that's helpful. I think that was a lot of information. Hopefully some good information. That's exactly what we use our CRM for, is like every process in-house and marketing. Huge. All right, let's go to the next question. This comes from Lindsay Grifka. Lindsay writes in, Ryan, what are the things you do to position yourself as an expert in your space? Business description and background. I'm in the cannabis industry with a product company, and I want to do our PR and social media and build an audience. How can I use PR or social media perspective to build awareness? Thank you, Lindsay. And here's the elevator pitch. I guess your business is Bling Blunts. I like that name, Bling Blunts. We break stereotypes and promote self-expression and confidence by offering innovative and chic personal storage containers that are high fashion, functional, and discreet, so our canafam can enjoy themselves to do the fullest without critique or judgment. Try our smell-resistant, airtight, child-proof, and reusable containers today. Okay, cool. So we use a lot of PR in my business, and we work a lot in being an expert in our industry. So I like your thinking right off the bat here, Lindsay. I think actually building yourself as an expert is huge, especially as you're building your long-term marketing game plan. Because PR, the one thing I would say is a misconception with PR, it's not instant business. It doesn't all of a sudden, I'll give you an example. I do a lot of television, national television. And it's like I'm not on TV and all of a sudden people are just like picking up the phone like, oh my God, I need to talk to these financial people. I wish it was that easy, and I used to dream that's what it was going to be like. It's not really like that. But it's almost like, straws on the camel of the back, right, that you're trying to break. The straw that broke the camel's back, per se, is when people start to get awareness about what you do, all of a sudden they see that you're an expert, like you're in different publications and things like that. It just all of a sudden that awareness starts to, I don't want to say wear on a person, but their awareness becomes stronger and stronger. So as you lead them down to your funnel to be able to do business with you, it's really just like getting them from all these different angles when they hear about you. And that creates, in your industry, I think it's really important, just like mine, is credibility. So the way we did it was we actually hired a PR firm, which I still use to this day, because they're always looking for opportunities to get us in the spotlight. So I didn't have a lot of connections in the financial industry on the actual media side when I got into the business. So using a PR firm, I think, is a great way to break in. And they can range from somewhat expensive to really, really expensive. So you can price this out, but I would get someone young and hungry. They might be able to help you at a smaller retainer initially. And you can always be like, look, if our business grows, we can start to essentially pay you more. And most PR people are willing to do that. They're willing to start at a smaller amount. So for you, I would just be like, what publications, what websites, where can you be positioned as an expert, doing interviews, getting quoted, all that kind of stuff is really, really important as you're building your brand. And I think it's a really smart way to do it. So I think getting a PR firm is a great way to go and get started. If you don't have the budget for that right now, which I get, the other thing you can do is whatever publications, industry rags you're reading, whether that's online, print, all those writers are very accessible. So you may want to just reach out to them with some like ideas, some pitches. Like what I do for my business every single week, like clockwork, and it's a lot of work. But once you get in the habit of it, it just starts to get that kind of media machine in motion. Is I sit down every single weekend. I spend most of Saturday, like I spend like 3 to 4 hours just reading about investing, reading what's going on right now in terms of the markets, the economy. And then I sit down every Sunday, and this is like my hardest work day, believe me, for me, a Sunday. I grew up Christian, so just don't tell anyone at the church. This is how I do it. But Sunday, basically I sit down for like 5 hours, and I just write out and outline my thoughts for the week, and I put into like a nice, like, I don't know, it's like a 2-page outline with just like all my thoughts, and I kind of distill it down into the major points, and I send out to all the media connections that I have and my PR people. So that way, like if they need a pitch, they know they can come to you, you're top of mind. So a lot of times I'll get on TV in a given week just because I sent my pitch that week, and like, oh yeah, actually I need somebody. Can you, somebody bailed out this week. Could you jump in for a spot? Like, hell yeah, I can. So that is a great way. If you really want to get serious about your PR, you've got to commit to being a thought leader and putting things down on paper, or proverbial, the symbolic paper now. It's like we type on a Word document every single week, and start building your media connections that way. So you can start just like emailing out to all those people in the industry, get to know who they are, start to make those connections. And that's like a great way, because now it's like 50-50. My PR people get all my notes and stuff, and they have connections I don't have. But over here, I've got a huge database now of people that I connect directly, and they get me into spots directly just because I've been building that relationship. So I hope that's helpful, but that's how I do it. It's a big hustle, but man, oh man, like it starts to pay huge dividends down the line. And I think that could be huge for you, because being in the limelight in your space, if you start, it's like a snowball effect, right? It just builds and builds momentum, but that's how I do it. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay, we're going to go to the next question. This is from Sean. We all know who Sean is. He's the man that runs this organization. He wrote, Ryan, can you discuss how wealthy people leverage to build more wealth? Background. Leverage can be performed with people and with money. You work with many wealthy people. Can you talk a little bit about mindset, how people think bigger and get bigger? In your opinion, where do these people learn to think bigger like this? Thanks. Okay, this is a great question, because the cruelty of success, and I can tell you as I've kind of come up the ladder of success, is as human beings, we don't care about absolutes. We only care about relativity. And let's break this down for a second. And what this means is like, okay, my firm right now, like I manage my success in my industry, or success is really measured by how many assets are you managing now. So when I started, I had no assets under management. And then I had $100 million under management, which was like a huge milestone. I did that like in my late 20s. I thought like I was king of the world for about a second. Then I started seeing all these other firms, or these other of my colleagues that maybe had a couple $100,000 under management. And then I felt so small again. And then you finally get to like a couple $100 million under management. You're like, wow. I've made it again. But then you start looking at firms that have $1 billion under management, and you're like, oh, I feel so small again. And then you finally get to, we're almost at $1 billion under management. But now the circles I run in, and some of the other people that I know, run firms that are like $5 billion, $10 billion. And man, I feel just like I did when I had literally no money under management. So the point I'm getting at is, it doesn't matter right now where you are on that rung of success. It's not really about getting like to 5 rungs higher. You're always focusing on getting to the next rung. And the weird thing is, the most successful people I know, they feel just as insecure as you and me, because maybe they're at this level of success. Maybe their business does $20 million a year. And now they're hanging with people whose businesses do $50 million a year. So I think, what I found in my own success, and I found with people that are really successful, I manage their money, is they never feel like they're just like king of the world, just like you, which I think should be comforting. But they're always pushing themselves to that next level, and they're doing it in two ways. Okay. And this is what I don't care where you are in your level of success, you always have to be doing this. Number one, they're getting out of their comfort zone. Okay. They're trying something different, or they're taking on a new challenge that they haven't done before, even though they've had success in the past. And it's just as uncomfortable as you starting your first business venture or where you are right now. One example I can give you is one of my clients who's a CEO of a big business here in New York. He sold the business to a big conglomerate that was run by like a public company along with a private company. And basically he took some big chips off the table. Like he's pretty much set for life. But now they're asking him to come in again and take this business and grow it even bigger and sell it again. Now it's a much bigger business than what he started with. The challenges are much, much different. And now he's at a point where he's got to make the decision, okay, I've got some chips off the table now, which is important. As you become more successful, I believe this as a financial advisor, take some chips off the table. Right in the beginning, you're putting all your capital into your business. Well, successful people, when they get success, they're going to start using other people's money, raising capital elsewhere, which you might be doing at the first rung too. But they're putting some of their capital away into just long-term investments, like the stuff that I would handle. And they're not going to put all their money at play. They'll put some of their money back at risk, but they're not going to put all of it at risk. So number one, they're basically getting out of their comfort zone to go to that next level, uncharted territory. And two, they're still risking some of their own capital. They're not going to, again, though, they're not going to take everything, because that would be crazy, because if it fails, then it's kind of like you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I can even just give you my own life right now. Like I think I talked about this on the last video, is I'm doing a lot of things right now that kind of suck. We just started a podcast. It's a lot of work. It's a little bit different than doing radio, which I've been doing for quite a few years, like completely different vibe. I'm in the midst of starting a YouTube channel. Doing YouTube videos is like really uncomfortable. It's weird standing outside with one of these handheld devices like this on the street, talking loudly as everybody's looking at you, and you just feel weird because you're not that good at it right now. It's like there's kids that are like 20 that can do this way better than I can. So I think those two ingredients are just so key. Is, it's like the old Dos Equis commercial, stay thirsty, my friend. You've got to force ways. And this is the thing that kind of sucks, because as you get more successful, and like this is a lot of my successful clients, like they're in their 40s, 50s, they're pretty much set for life. They don't really spend way outside their means, but they've got a sizable portfolio that can just live off the income now, which is a really cool place to be. It's passive income they could live off of. It's like exceeds what they need to live on anyway. And that's going to last them for like another 40 years, which is kind of crazy. So you've got to motivate yourself. It's easy in the beginning when you have nothing, right? When I started my business, I had literally nothing. So there was really nothing to lose in a way that's kind of easier, because it's like, well, if this doesn't work, whatever. I didn't have anything to lose to begin with. But now imagine you're wealthier now. You've got an ego, because our ego definitely goes up with our success. I mean, you can say, oh, no, it doesn't affect me at all. It totally does, because now you're like this rung of success. There's lots of people looking at you like you're so smart. And it's really dangerous, because once you start to believe that bullshit, that can be a problem, because now that affects your ego. Your ego becomes much more fragile. So it actually, in a weird way, it's like it's just never easy, and you never feel satisfied or comfortable. But I think I've answered the question. But going back to the mindset is just that. Like, you have to keep getting out of your comfort zone, and you have to somehow make yourself motivated, even if you have financial independence, which I always say that's really hard for people that have a trust fund, because we do manage money for people that are like a couple generations of wealth, like literally Rockefeller money, right? They're like descendants of these huge industrialists from back like in the 20s, and that wealth now is just humongous. They don't have to work. And I think that's a dangerous place to be, because if you wake up in the morning and you never have to like earn a living, it's kind of weird. You might think that sounds amazing. I would just chill out all day. Like, that would be so cool. I'd work on all my pet projects. I think we discount like the fact that we have to wake up in the morning. We're like, our heart's pumping a little bit. Okay, like what's falling apart in my business? What do I need to do next? So I think like the ability to continually plunge yourself in those situations, even when you don't have to, is what a really successful person does. So like every rung of success, it's just as hard as your rung of success now from where you're trying to go to the next one. It just never ends. So I guess the good news is it keeps you sharp. It keeps you in the game. The bad news is it doesn't actually ever get easier. So hopefully that helps. I think I answered your question, but I think it's a really good question. I could do a whole thing on that because I think psychologically, like staying motivated and pushing yourself are things that we could talk on for hours and hours and hours. And I know for me, like with pandemic, and a lot of you probably feel the same way, like at one point my business did slow down somewhere in May where the phones weren't ringing because people weren't thinking about investing their money. And it was just like a quiet period. And a lot of us probably aren't used to any quiet time. Like it's always crazy. So when things slow down, you kind of get this existential crisis where you're like, oh my God, what's next? And I think that's where really successful people are able to like recalibrate and say, okay, now it's time to kind of take that plunge into the cold water again. And nobody likes to do it, but man, it's just better to rip the Band-Aid off and just jump. Okay, I totally went off on a tangent there, but I think you get my gist there. Let's move to the next question. Good question, Sean. Thanks for asking that one. Next one is Ryan. This is from Jackson. Lol Jackson. He writes in, Ryan, how do I learn to delegate when I'm super busy taking care of clients? I have a video marketing company. I have been a freelancer, but I want to build a company. I hired a sales coach and it worked. Awesome. You should always have coaches, by the way. That's another way to motivate yourself. Now I have more business than I can handle, and I'm trying to learn to hire out and delegate. Where do you learn how to delegate? And advice from me, thanks so much. Oh my God. I think this is my favorite question of the day, and it fits into the last question too. Or actually the CRM question. We'll go back to that question where you're building infrastructure. Okay, you need to bite the bullet. And you're busy, you got a lot going on, but you've got to take the time, and this actually goes back to the CRM question as well, is we don't like doing this a lot of times as entrepreneurs. We don't like to stop running, to sit down and build framework. And I can tell you in my business, I had to cross the Rubicon basically when we brought in a business partner who was just referring us business now. So it wasn't just me going out one client at a time. I now had this whole company out there that was just literally handing us accounts to manage, and they wanted proposals. They were pitching my firm. So it was like, again, kind of the same thing as going from a freelancer to all of a sudden now, I've got all this new work coming in that I can't handle. So it's twofold. I need a system to handle this new work coming in, like how the proposal is going to get done. I used to just sit there and do them by hand, which was fine if I had one or two a week. But when you're getting like 5 a day, like it's impossible. And secondly, not only do you have to have that incoming in, now you're going to have people to service that business. So what you need to do, and this is what I did, I just had to come to Jesus when basically I just couldn't take it anymore. I could not do the business anymore. I sat in my office for an entire weekend. I literally worked. I remember this. I started on Friday. I got home the first night. Friday night, I got home at like 1, 2 in the morning. Went back in the office the next morning. Worked again. Saturday night to 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And finally finished it up on Sunday evening. I went in. I built an entire process, like soup to nuts, how a proposal gets done. So we could just get an intern that could just come in and take the statements that are coming in that we needed to analyze for the proposal. I built an email address. I literally went through and designed the whole thing, soup to nuts, how a proposal should be done. And I made it like you were ordering something from McDonald's, right? Someone orders what they want, check off the menu, and then I have someone who just followed the processes. There's a really good movie about Ray Kroc. It came out a couple years ago. I can't remember the name of it, but he's the one who founded McDonald's. I forget who played him in the movie, but it just shows how he basically systematized the burger industry. Like the McDonald's brothers, they just had this like really niche, and this is how we are as business owners, right? There's a very niche process. They did everything by hand. The two brothers were in there in the store. Ray Kroc comes in and just systematizes everything. He like has a basketball court where he designs how it's all going to be structured. You need to do the same thing. And you know what? You have a coach, have someone help you do it. Like actually, if I would have done it in retrospect, I would have gotten someone who's really good at systems. I would have paid them as a consultant or whatever to just work with me and build the system. And I just think about that. Like literally, he built this whole thing on like I think it's on a basketball court, like with chalk, and they just designed it and the whole thing laid out, and then they implement it. You've got to do the same thing. You've just got to take the time, put it aside. If you can't do it by yourself, hire somebody to help you do it. But you need to build all your systems from the ground up so that everything, like if someone comes in as, an underling for you, like what do they do? What are their processes? How does it work? And then just build that out. If you do that, and you only have to do it once, because now when we redo systems, I actually have people that like in my organization actually do it for me. I don't even have to do it, but that will be a day of reckoning for you and your businesses. That'll be a day that'll say your mind will just shift, and you're not just like this little niche mom and pop shop anymore. You're running a business for scale. And for me, like I can tell you that is like a defining moment between when I was a little mom and pop shop to now literally just continually growing and leveraging because I built infrastructure and a mindset that said, I'm building something that's going to be able to service hundreds and hundreds. In fact, at this point, we've got thousands of clients that if I have, now we have something like 8-9 financial advisors. But, if we have 20 at some point, we're building a system that can handle all those things. So think about it. When you build that kind of scale and structure from the beginning, your mindset's completely different. When any problem arises, you're going to start thinking about how do I fix the whole system? So I think that's a great question. And again, it goes back to the CRM. When you get that CRM question, same thing. How are you going to build that CRM so it's just absolutely infrastructure to leverage your business to the next level? So I think it's a great place to stop. I think these are just absolutely fantastic questions. Actually, I'll check to see if there's any questions on the side here. Because I don't want to miss anyone. Oh, it looks good. Okay, if you have any other questions, quickly write them. If not, we'll end here. And I will do another session like in exactly 4 weeks so we can do it again. But these are great questions today. I really enjoy doing this because it also clarifies for me what I should be doing in my business. So I really appreciate that. So keep the questions coming, and I'll answer them again next month. But I appreciate all of you. This is great to do this. If any questions, like you want clarification, it's cool. Just DM me. I'm happy to answer it for you. It doesn't take me long to get back to you. I'm good at doing those things. And yeah, man, let's keep it going. Man or woman, excuse me. I didn't mean to say yo, man. So let's take a look. Next 4 weeks, let's reevaluate where we are. Enjoy the rest of summer, what's left of it. But look, the end of the year here. Let's kick ass and take names. I know I'm doing it in my business. I hope you're doing it in your business. There's plenty of room here to grow this year, and just like keep your eye on the ball. Till next time, I'm out. Thank you.